Hello, welcome into another episode of The Artist Journey. We have with us Maximilian Lloyd. He is a filmmaker and video editor from Chicago, Illinois. He is currently based in Atlanta, Georgia. Since 2022, he has directed short films, music videos, documentaries, and video essays about the arts, such as A Poet's Guide to ATL. And right before us, we have some tea, some yogi tea, and how we like to start off each episode is with reading our yogi tea message. So, what does your yogi tea say? And on your yogi on your tea.
On the
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Let the opportunities come to you.
Let the opportunities come to you. I like that. And that's actually kind of goes with what we're talking about today, about opportunities as an artist, as how things, how we create opportunities for ourselves. Do you feel like you can relate to that message in some type of way?
Definitely trusting the universe, trusting God. It definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, trusting in the universe and trusting God. I like that. Yeah. So we're gonna start off. So you, in addition to Maximilian, you also go by Professor Max. So where did that name come from?
That name came from, I was working at Kroger actually, and my boss had come up and he was talking to like one of the assistant managers, and they were talking about some grammatical thing, like how do you switch tenses or something with this specific word. And I knew what it was because I was an English major, so I just know a couple things about grammar. And they were like, oh, Professor Max, like they made this kind of joke because I knew this like odd grammatical punctuation thing. And I had been looking for a musical name for like a year. Like I had just got the idea back in like 2022 that I was like, I want to start dropping music because I had been making beats for a while, but I never released them. And so when I heard that name, I was like, that's it. And I just trusted the process and I went with it.
I like that. That's cool. So you have multiple names, and artists do this too. Because I've noticed artists will go by multiple names. I myself do that too. So you have So Professor Max, and that's your artist name, and as a producer, Yeah, that's great. So okay, so let's take me back in time when you first fell in love with film as an artistry. Where were you during this time in your life? So like, it doesn't have to be a specific day, but like in that, like, where were you in that moment in time and space in your life during the time you discovered film? Or is that something that you've always been like introduced to, like growing up from your family? Like how did you start with film making?
So it was 2020 in the pandemic, and I was bored. I was working at DSW, and I was taking a gap year. So I wasn't in school yet, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this time? And for some reason, I was just like, pick up a camera. So I just saved up some money, saved up like $500 and got a camera. And I had no idea what I was doing. So I just would go out on the street and just start shooting stuff. And that's how I learned. And I was like, how do you make a film though? Because I was a lot more introverted than I was now. So I was like, I don't really want to ask people to be in my films. I don't want to work with actors right now. Or I don't even know how to like contact them. So I would just shoot buildings and nature. And I was like, I was just intuitively putting stuff together into these narratives and putting these monologues over it. And eventually that was kind of like my starting point into making films.
That's beautiful. That's really cool. And then, so how did you transition from filming buildings and nature to what you do today, like putting together actual like documentaries with people and directing and acting?
So, it started, I took a documentary class my senior year in college. And as part of our like final, the professor was like, you got to shoot 5 minutes of a topic of your choosing. And documentary was kind of easy to lean into because you're not really directing people what to do. You're kind of just asking questions and letting them, letting them talk and letting them tell their story. So I had this 5-minute piece. I was like, what am I going to do it on? I was always into poetry and writing. And so I started off with a documentary about poetry. And then that blew into this whole 40-minute project eventually.
That's cool. That's great how that happens. And school is always a good way to start something, because you always have the excuse in your mind, well, it's for a grade. Like if you're nervous to do something, I find it like I found it easy to think like, oh, well, this is for a grade, and just kind of like you having that purpose behind it. Like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get a grade. But also leaning in, also just having that to help you set your path with where you are today, which is really cool. So you recently finished directing, filming, and editing a film called Terry's Trip. What was it like wearing multiple hats and working with multiple actors? Because in this film, you were also, not only were you filming, you were also the director, you also were editing, and you also mentioned that you're an introvert, so you had to kind of be a little extroverted maybe to extend yourself in this position. So how was that for you?
It was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, and very arduous. Like, that was a really long 2 days. But when you're working on something you're passionate about, as an artist specifically, it's like it will push you beyond your comfort zone, like just for the sake of like getting it done. You may not be the most extroverted, you may not be the best with people, but you'll figure it out if you care enough about what you're doing. And that's kind of what I've learned about myself in that process. That's great. Yeah, so it stretched you to get outside of your comfort zone, and the motivation to do that was the joy and the love that you got from being in that position as a director or as a filmmaker too. What do you like more about? Do you like one or the other more? Like, did you like directing more? Do you like filmmaking more? Because you're so multifaceted. Like, you do multiple things, and like, do you have something that you like more than the other, or no? The thing I like most about the whole process is probably the editing, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because editing is actually pretty similar to making music, because you're cutting stuff together. Mm-hmm. You're finding this kind of internal rhythm to the film, which is like really similar to music in my experience.
That's cool. That's interesting. You said rhythm. The rhythm. You finding the rhythm and you're cutting and moving it. Yeah, and that in itself, editing in itself is an art too.
For sure.
Yeah. So, in addition to, so one thing about you is you're an observer. That's something I noticed you, because we have small interactions, but I've seen you around, and you're always like, with your camera, and you're always like, doing your thing, just being the artist in the room, just taking pictures or doing video. And so being an observer, in addition to being a filmmaker and photographer, you are, as we mentioned, you're a producer. So what are your daily thoughts process? Because you are wearing multiple hats, and you are someone who are, you have a lot going on in your mind. So it's like, what are you thinking about every day? Like, what is your thought process throughout the day? Are you always creating in your mind, always thinking about the next project? Are you just like in the moment? Like, how's that for you as an artist?
Um, it definitely depends on the day and the kind of the period I'm in, because I definitely switch between. I might be super focused on a beat tape that I have coming out, or I might be in pre-production for a film, or I might have, a gig coming up for like an erotic poetry night. I'm like, let me see if I can outdo, the pictures that I took last time or the shots that I got last time. So I'm always usually focused on some sort of project. But I mean,
That's
all in
cool.
all, just having a human experience too, like, figuring out how to be better with social interactions, figuring out, who I can connect with today, or new connections I can make today, all type of stuff.
That's cool. That's great. Yeah, and I like that you said, like, being better, like doing better than what you did before. Because I've heard or seen in you is like, the only competition I have is myself. So it's like, how can I do better than I did before? So yeah, so that's great. So with that being said, who has inspired and motivated you to who you are today as a director, producer, photographer, and editor? What has been your greatest inspiration?
Definitely the support of my parents, supporting me, going on this kind of off-beaten path, this kind of non-traditional path of creating things as opposed to, seeking a 9-to-5 job, has been really helpful for my confidence in doing this. And then the people that I meet when I'm working on these films, the actors and the crew members, it's inspiring how much community that I, have been building just as a result of me pursuing something creatively.
That's great. Yeah. Support is important as an artist because this is a non-traditional career and it's not easy to do if you don't love it. You wouldn't do it anyway if you didn't love it.
Yeah.
No one's telling you to pick up the camera. No one's forcing you to do this. So it's something that we do out of our hearts, and it's almost, I'm not sure, maybe if you can relate, it's almost like a calling or an urgency or something, like your soul urges you to do it, and then like you are just answering to that. Would you agree with that, or do you have a different, like, what draws you into doing this type of work? Is it an urgency, or is it something that, like, I don't know, what is your pull, what is your, I guess, your why? Like, why do you do it?
It's definitely, I feel you on that. It's like a compulsion. It's like something that you do that nobody asks you to do. You just have this urge to do something, to paint, to take photos, to something. And I've been, looking for that question for a long time. And recently, I, saw this Instagram clip where this guy was like, basically, find whatever it is that brings out your highest self. And for me, it's art. It's like it takes like 100% of my effort, my focus, and I feel, the most confident and the most on my purpose when I'm doing creative things. And he's like, lean into whatever that is, because the world needs more people that are operating at their highest self.
Yeah, that's great that you said that. It helps you operate, or you operate at your highest self when you're being a creator, and in that way you're in your creative mode. So yeah, yes, and that's something that is beyond us, beyond our comprehension. Like, you may not know why that is, but you know that it is, and that you're just obedient to it, and then that's why it's so important to have the support of the community and your parents to on this venture, because it's not easy. So what is your biggest challenges? Because we've been talking about having support and community, and this is what your soul urges you to do. As an independent artist, what would you say your biggest challenge is?
I would say it's kind of like what's on this T label, letting the opportunities come to you, being patient and sticking with things even when maybe nothing is working out and you're not getting gigs, you're getting jobs. Just like not giving up and staying confident in yourself, staying confident in the fact that you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, staying confident and knowing what you're doing, what you're supposed to do. Because sometimes, like you were saying earlier, sometimes, I mean, you don't really necessarily maybe know, you just your soul urges you to do it, and you may not fully know why, but you just know that you have to, like, you're on a mission, like you're being obedient to the mission. Because like if you, and maybe some artists who are watching this can relate to this, like, it doesn't feel good when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It doesn't feel good when you're not doing your craft, whatever that is. It just, and then once you do it again, like, you feel like, okay, why wasn't I doing this? Why did I take a break or whatever, so, yeah. So you have, so in addition to everything that you do, in addition to your film, you have an album out, and the album is called Professor Max. And when I listen to this album, it reminds me of a chill hop, relaxing, meditative, like calm mood. Like it's a good, like nice beat to listen to when you're studying, or it sets your mind into that alpha wave mode, where it's like, where you're just relaxed and you can listen to it when you're like cleaning or cooking or just, chill, relax. So during the creation of this album, what was your creative process? What was your inspiration? Were you inspired by chill hop, or were you like were you just creating out of just, out of your heart and just, this is what I made today?
It's funny because every time I talk about music with people, they're like, this is like cool to study to or do something to. It's like very relaxing. And that's like never my intention. It's usually like I'm inspired by, boom bap and Jay Dilla and MF Doom and stuff like that. But the way, stuff comes out, it's always super chill and super relaxed. For some reason, I'm just drawn to that kind of style, that really laid back production style. And it's just totally intuitive, I'll think of some sort of theme that I want to center everything around, whether it's Valentine's Day or the summertime or Comfortable Spaces, which is one of the beat tape names. And I'll just give it, a good 6 months of just seeing, what samples I can flip, what beats I can make on my own, and just try to drop stuff as often as I can.
That's cool. Yeah, and I feel like we have as artists, like our create whatever you're creating, it's an extension of your essence. It's an extension of yourself. So like, even though you don't mean to make that type of calm music, you yourself are calm, cool, like relaxed person, so maybe it's just like, maybe it's an aspect of yourself or a piece of your essence that translates into the music that you create. And because music, as you know, is a way of communicating, to people. So, and it's just a way, it's just my interpretation of what you're saying is, it's like, it's an extension of who you are that transmuted into a vibration or a frequency, and that's what people are picking up on. So, yeah. So, do you have any other projects that you're working on right now?
I am working on another short film. We finished shooting 3 weeks ago, so I'm in the editing room every day working on post-production, and so I don't know when that's going to drop, but probably by the end of this year, if not earlier.
That's cool. That's great. You have some time, because as we're shooting this right now, we're in what month are we? May? So yeah, you got some time. And I'm going to end this interview with this question. Many times as an artist, our many times artists are told that you can't do multiple things at once. I'm not sure if you heard this, but I've heard this. It's like, oh, focus on one thing. Focus on just do one thing. So, just do one thing and then that's it. Have you been told that?
For sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure. All right, so you obviously don't just do one thing. So, what advice would you have to an artist who is drawn to multiple things or have multiple talents, but feel like they can't do it, or or feel like they have to just focus on like photography, but they have the urge to do production, they want to be a producer, or they have the urge to be a singer or something like that. What advice do you have to other artists who are naturally multifaceted, naturally want to express themselves in multiple ways, but may not know how to, or may feel like they're not allowed to?
I would say everybody does multiple things. It just may not be creative, but everybody needs that time to recharge, to get away from that main thing you do. Like, some people may not do another art, but they may be super into weightlifting, and so that's their way of recharging. Or some other people may, they're very spiritual, and they have to, go to church more, read their Bible, anything. But everybody needs to recharge and give whatever it is their main thing, if they have one, some time away from it. Because time away also gives you perspective and new experiences to bring back to it. So always, be patient with yourself, because it can make your art better in the long term.
That is great advice, and I hope that helped whoever's listening. And thank you so much for joining us today. This is The Artist Journey, and we will see you again next time.
All right, thanks for having me.
Of course.